this is a really deep-seated one to unravel.
It really
because
is.
the feeling of I am a bad woman, I am a bad mother, I am somehow abandoning my mother and my great-grandmother who struggled and drove themselves into the ground because they insisted on doing everything, if I hire someone to do XYZ in my business or to wash my sheets or whatever it is. There is such deep programming, and I have really devoted myself to unraveling that, and like the line stops with me.
I'm so excited to introduce you to today's guest, Cait Scudder, who is also known as the Millionaire Mother. Cait is a former client turned dear, dear friend, and today we are diving into how becoming a mother actually is an advantage in your business and in your money-making endeavors, as opposed to the conditioning we've received, which is that it is a disadvantage. Cait has incredible stories, incredible wisdom to pass along for anyone who is walking the dual path of the vocation of motherhood and entrepreneurship at the same time. Enjoy the episode. Welcome to Plenty. I'm your host, Kate Northrup, and together we are going on a journey to help you have an incredible relationship with money, time, and energy, and to have abundance on every possible level. Every week, we're going to dive in with experts and insights to help you unlock a life of plenty. Let's go fill our cups.
Please note that the opinions and perspectives of the guests on the Plenty podcast are not necessarily reflective of the opinions and perspectives of Cait Northrup or anyone who works within the Cait Northrup brand.
Welcome to Plenty.
Thank you.
I'm so happy to have you,
So
Cait.
good to be here.
Okay, so I want to start off, if you don't mind, telling the story of how it's not actually the story of how we met because we met before that,
Yes.
but the story of how we ended up coming together.
Yes, our meet cute.
Our meet cute.
Okay, great. So this was just such a divine moment. I don't even know, Kate. I think it was like a month postpartum with Ella, who is my oldest. She is 3.5, almost 4. And as you say, I knew you because I asked you to come into that female co-working space in Portland, Maine, to come on my podcast. It was so fun. I think you had just written Do Less, or were about to release it. And that was it. I was like, Cait Northrup, she also lives in Maine. Cool. But I didn't actively follow you. I'd read your book, but I wasn't like, a super fangirl. And in those early postpartum days, I had a dream. So I don't even remember, it wasn't one of those like visually intense dreams, but it was like such a clear dream. Join Cait Northrup's mastermind. And I literally remember we were staying in Pine Point at this rental house, like rolling over in bed and being like, babe, I had this random dream about Cait Northrup. Do you remember that lady I interviewed for my podcast? He's like, yeah. I was like, I had a dream I joined her mastermind. He's like, okay, that's weird. And I was like, yep. Anyway, going about our day, I kid you not, I think I saw you market the Origin Mastermind one time, and it was that morning. I remember sitting on the couch, nursing Ella, and looking at my phone and being like, what? Like, this is random. Okay, universe, I'm following that nudge. So there I am, like at her next nap, filling out the application. It's like, what makes you interested in this mastermind? I remember writing whatever I did. Like, I basically got divine instruction to be here. So here I am. Hello. And basically sold myself to you on our application call and stayed for 2 years and until you shut it down. But it was the best thing ever.
It was amazing.
And this wasn't your question in particular, but I want to say this because I have had moments, never a direct dream, like never basically like written instructions from God slid through the dream portal like that before, but so many nudges or like inklings in the right direction of the next step we're meant to take. And the experience with you was just such confirmation because not only was it incredible for my business and meeting some of the most amazing women in my life who are now like family, So the ripple effect of that decision, like so many of my relationships, my connections in Maine, just things that happened as doors that opened from that choice point, it is so evident that I needed to do that. And so I feel like that's such an important thing to remember when we get those nudges, we have to listen to them.
Yes.
Yeah.
And what do you find that your clients do to talk them out of listening? And what's like, talk me through that, because you and I are, I think, unusual.
Yes.
In that we get those nudges and then we're just like, great, thanks for the instructions, carrying on making the decision.
Totally.
That's not normal.
It's not normal. I mean, I had that distinct feeling. I don't know if you remember this. I wanted to pay in full before the end of the tax year. So I drove to your house in Yarmouth with a physical check because there was something with like the ACH thing.
Yes.
And Mike answered the door in your house in Yarmouth. I was like, hi,
Yes,
this is
you
my
literally-
tuition for the mastermind.
It was like our second time meeting and you were handing me a 5-figure check
Oh,
on
yeah.
my front porch.
Yes.
And I was like, I remember closing the door. I was like, and it was also, that was deep in the pandemic.
Oh, definitely.
So,
I'm
like,
like, I'm not wearing a mask.
There
and
was
you're like,
also,
that's
I was
okay.
like, it's fine. Everything's fine here. I feel safe. And yeah, you had Ella sleeping in the car seat in the
Yep.
car.
Yep.
So you didn't even come in. You
No, I just
like
dropped a
literally-
check off.
literally handed me a check on my front porch.
That was great. That was
the
top transaction.
funniest payment experiences I've ever receiving. Like, okay.
Yeah, great.
Yeah. Oh my
Yep.
God.
So
So
good.
funny.
So good.
Okay.
But yes, this does happen. And I think we are unusual in that way. And I think, so I've had clients say to me, like, I had a dream, it literally happened this week. I had a dream about you. I had a dream we were working together. I had a dream we were hanging out and our babies were together.
Aw.
And it's like, it's so beautiful when that happens. And I just think there is so much, there is so much going on that we do not control. And there's so much, I feel like we're always co-creating in the realm of everything in our lives, but especially business with the universe, God, the divine. And when we think it's just our own like logical decisions that are moving the needle, we're missing out on so much magic and momentum. We are constantly in a co-creation. And I think for me, it's easy to follow those nudges. I mean, I have to override the part of my brain that's like, should you really be taking like multi-5-figure investment advice from a dream? And I'm like, absolutely. Because I have seen just over and over again in my life. I mean, the way that I met my husband, like these moments that shouldn't have happened or don't make sense. And yet they are the threshold moments that open everything up. And so when I have a client say that to me, I just hold up the mirror and I affirm, like, amazing. How incredible is it that you're that connected? And I never like force people or like say, you've got to follow this, but it's just a moment of realizing, wow, we have access to so much more information than we often allow ourselves to feel. And what I have noticed is that the more, it's like a positive upward spiral. The more that I listen to that and follow those nudges, the easier it becomes to do that, the more positive evidence I gather. And it's just like,
And then
yeah.
do you find that you get more of that kind of internal guidance? Like it gets louder or more clear?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
More of that internal guidance, more. And when I'm not following that or when I'm like making a decision overly, and it's, I'm obviously always using the faculties of logic and reason and intuition, guidance, serendipity, synchronicity from outside of me. I use them both, but I can see more easily when I am blocking that. And when I open to that and listen, it just, everything becomes clearer.
Yeah. So, I don't know, 6 months-ish after we stopped working together, like officially, and then more transitioned into friend mode,
Yeah.
which has been such a pleasure.
So great.
You did a pretty big pivot
Very
in your
big.
business.
Yes.
And can you for anyone listening who is in a place where like there's something coming through them that might be different or a variation of what they're already doing and they feel called, but is, they're feeling hesitancy or like I've always been known for this or like this is too bold or too much sticking my flag in. Your brand is the Millionaire Mother, and just even that, I'm sure, ruffles feathers.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
people are triggered by that. And of course the right people are magnetized by it. But
Yes.
can you talk about how that new variation of your work came through? What was that experience like, given that we're talking about these internal nudges?
Oh my gosh. Well, I don't know if you actually know this
I
story,
don't.
but I am going to share this with you because you are going to love this. And
Okay.
again, folding so beautifully in with this first question, it had to do with somebody that I met in your mastermind. So I was in Australia. It was April of 2020, let me think, 2023. Wow, last year. Okay. So it was April of 2023. I was at that point postpartum with Jack, my second. And that birth, I will circle back to that
Yeah.
because that was really the catalyst for the rebrand and just shifting things in a massive way. But I was at that point postpartum with him, and he was a very, like, I joke, I thought that boy was going to nurse until like his 20s because he was just so attached and like would not let me have 5 minutes without being on my body at night. So around that point, 8, 9 months postpartum, I was exhausted. And I was like, something needs to change. And I had, again, not a dream, but like this visceral hit, reach out to Erin Rose. And
Oh,
yes. So I was like, that's weird. I met Erin one time in a random Airbnb in Texas.
also he's like not a mother,
Not a mother
not a
at
father,
all. Not a
has never nursed.
Never did. But it was just like the universe was like, and so I'm in Australia, so it's like mid-afternoon for Erin. I'm in the middle of the night in one of my feeds with Jack, and I messaged Erin, and I was like, "Hi, I know you speak this language, so I'm like here on a divine assignment. I think I need a session with you." And so Erin and I, when I got back from Australia, because it was just too hard to coordinate, I was feeling the like unraveling of my old business. And my old business was just my name. My podcast was called Born to Rise. As you know, I have an athletic background, like so much of, and I'd already made millions of dollars. And so much of the momentum that I had generated was from this message of like, if you can dream it, you can achieve it, like, right, which is beautiful and is so still part of me. But I could feel like something about this isn't the whole picture anymore. And I feel really tired pretending like it is. Not that I was like faking everything that I was doing, but I felt really constricted by my message and by my brand in a way that was so confronting because it was extremely successful. And so I was like, what am I supposed to do? And I had this, it was so beautiful. I've never had a session where somebody like opened it by calling in all of my angels. Archangel Michael was there, and he just like put this whole like angel squad around the call. And he was like, what's going on? And I was talking to him about a container that I was running at the time. It was a multiple $1 million offer over the years, the Rise Mastermind. And I was just feeling like something needed to shift with it. And he, like one of the most poignant messages that anyone has ever said to me in a mentoring call, he said, Cait, it sounds like Rise is already dying. Why don't you give it back to the earth? And I was like, ding, 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 ding. And that was the moment where I said, okay, I know what I have to do. And so I was like 5.5 months into the container, and within 2 weeks, I closed it down. I sent over 6 figures of refunds. I slashed our MRR by like 70%. And I was like trust falling, baby, like Alexa, play Pink. I was trust falling into the unknown because I knew that something else was coming through. And I said that this was related to Jack's birth. So with Ella, we were planning for a home birth. ended up having to transfer to the hospital. It was like not, for like many of us know, like not the birth I wanted. It was nurses holding my knees to my ears, screaming push, NICU doctors talking on their cell phone as I'm like crowning. It was horrible. Did a lot of internal work to like shift and heal the narrative, and also just like open myself to be available for a different experience without trying to like grip it and control it, because birth is the ultimate surrender. And with Jack, we ended up, I mean, that was probably the single greatest transformational portal of my life. We had a water birth at home. He was 10 pounds, 15 ounces. And the craziest part was I did not push him out. There's this thing called the fetal ejection reflex, FER, where the fundus of the uterus basically just expels the baby. And that is what happened with Jack. And he was 10 pounds and 15 ounces coming out of a hole this big. It was an event. But it was wild because it truly was pain-free up until intense AF, but like not until the very, very end. And it was over like that. And it just sent me through this process of like recalculating, because I'm like, if my body knows how to do that without any conscious effort, what does this mean about business? What does this mean about growing a company? What does this mean about up-leveling impact and income? If there is like a mechanism inside of me that knows how to do literally the superhuman impossible without my conscious thought. And I think that was part of what was unraveling inside of me, is like these old messages, just focusing on the strategy and just focusing on even just mindset. It was like there was this other piece wanting to come through. And I created a program that year between the birth of Jack and rebranding to the Millionaire Mother, called Boss Mama, where I was, going into motherhood and business. It was a 6-week little immersion. And after it was done, I'm like, I'm not done with this conversation. I am just starting this conversation. And so anyway, after that call with Aaron, I unraveled. I let myself just go into the abyss. And then, and I know this is not the case for everyone, but this is truly my experience. I was in my office and I just got the full download transmission. I went into Toby's office and I got this like huge roll of paper that I rolled across my entire floor. I was on my hands and knees, like mapping out the company, the offer suite, the message, like the core brand message, just the whole thing. And I was literally channeling it like in the same position that I gave birth.
Oh my God.
It was wild.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
And like that was April, and then you launched the Millionaire Mother.
So it was May, end of May or
Okay.
beginning of June,
Okay.
2023, that channeling on the floor moment happened. May, when I did all the refunds and / the MRR. And by July, I had rebranded.
By July, you had rebranded and you launched your signature offer, which is the Millionaire Mother experience.
Yes, in August.
In August. That's remarkable. Okay, so what do you see with your clients who are pushing the brakes when their energetic, fetal reflex, whatever.
Yes.
What is it called?
FER, fetal
FER.
ejection reflex.
Yeah, is like trying to birth something, but they're like trying to stop it. And because that's what I see all the time, is that people have something like this that is clearly divinely ordained,
yes.
divinely guided. It's meant to come through them, but they're just don't feel trusting enough to actually do what they see as the risky thing, which is letting go of the
known.
the guarantees,
Yes.
which isn't nothing's guaranteed, but the letting go of the known and sinking into the abyss, right? So like you're really good at that. And how do you, I don't know if you're
But it's
naturally
scary.
like that or
Yes.
but how do you guide your people who are freaked out?
So here's how I think about it. There is absolutely a risk of letting go of what we know, of letting go of whether it's a revenue stream, whether it's a known messaging angle that we know our people resonate with. But here's what I think, when we start to feel that pull to something different, when we feel like there is something decaying, we have to, it's really trusting cyclicality. We have to be able to trust that things have a particular life cycle. And it wasn't like the death of Born to Rise or the Rise Mastermind. Like, it wasn't that that became bad. It was like that had run its course and it was time to let it go. And I think that it takes so much energy. It is so energetically inefficient to cling and hold on to and then like be in this internal struggle while trying to present one way in the world. Like, it is such a leak of energy.
It's
and as a
deeply
postpartum mom
exhausting.
of like 2 under 3, I was like, I didn't have time for that.
No.
I had to free up my bandwidth. And so we can perceive, oh my gosh, this is so risky, but to me, it is so much more irresponsible and such a greater risk to fight for and hold on to something that isn't working. And I think that, so the way that I guide clients through that is like really holding up the mirror to what is your inner knowing saying? What is guiding you here? And one of the tools that I find to be really helpful, and I say this to clients all the time, it's like this whole unraveling, whatever got you to this moment, it was following the breadcrumbs. It was one step after the other. And we arrive at these different moments in business and feel like, okay, I've created this thing that works and I know it now. But the thing that got us here was following that. So we already have the evidence if we look back to trust that we're able to keep doing it. And I think when we get to higher heights, it becomes harder in some ways to do that, especially when we're moms, especially if we're carrying like the primary financial responsibility for the household. But to me, it's actually less risky to do that.
Yeah,
And
I love that
switching
reframe.
mindset, switching that frame around it just is so empowering.
It's so empowering. Now, one of the things that you and I have both researched, but you more recently, so I'm excited about like your data, is about, so the cultural conditioning we have is that being a mother makes us less available for making money, less available for being good in business, and is somehow, the sort of mommy brain, oh, I can't do it. Oh, now it's extra hard. Now I have to, contract things from a earning potential. And like, by the way, if that has been somebody's path, no shade.
Totally.
Right? Like everyone's path is different.
100%.
Yours has been different.
Mine has been different.
As has mine.
Yes.
As I have grown babies and a family, I have also simultaneously expanded a business, exponentially at times. And so what have you learned about the female brain and the way that motherhood actually makes us even better business owners, better entrepreneurs, or like more equipped instead of the conditioning we have that it's a detriment?
Yeah, it's okay. So right now, well, according to latest census data, there are over 4.3 million female entrepreneurs in the country. 1 in 3 has school-age children at home. And so and I think that post-pandemic, that number exponentially increased. A lot of moms realized like, hang on, I cannot do 2 full-time roles. And the mommy tracking that happens in corporate America, like so many mothers are being drawn to entrepreneurship because corporate life, working for a company, it just is not set up in such a way in this country that supports moms being participatory mothers. And so what happens during pregnancy, postpartum, lasting years postpartum, the gray matter in the brain, which is the part responsible for word recall, memory. It's why we're like, what's the thing called? That is not just like a fluke. It's not just like a joke among moms. It is actually a cerebral restructuring where gray matter significantly decreases. So it is absolutely true that recalling words, feeling that fuzziness, that happens so that the default mode network, which is another center in the brain, increases. And that center of the brain is connected to like dreaming, intuition, non like external focus tasks, but this more like open perception. And that is why as mothers, that like spidey sense that we have of like, I don't even know. I had this the other day. Our house is quite large. We were in the kitchen. Our bedroom where James was sleeping was on the other side of the room. I did not hear him at all, but I walked to the stairs on the opposite side of the house because I just had this feeling, and he was screaming. And that is the default mode network, and that exponentially grows during pregnancy, but in particular postpartum, and it lasts up to 2 years, that expansion. Yeah. And then other parts of the brain, are fundamentally changed forever. And what I think is so interesting about this is that we often think the skills that grow a business are logic, reason, but all visionaries, all inventors are connected to this intuitive side. And that is actually the secret sauce to growing a business. So I am like preaching this, like handing out pamphlets on the street to whoever will listen. Like, we have been duped by the patriarchy. We have been duped to think that we have no place in the business world, that like our leaky boobs and foggy brains can just like hang out in a corner until we can like button up in a power suit again. And it's like, no. We not only deserve center stage, but we are bringing to the table this like cognitive superpower that is so on our side to grow a business. And that is why those messages of like, I think I should do this, or I see this new direction, or wouldn't this angle be like incredible? That information is coming to us because of this neurological change. It's so cool.
What's that part of the brain called?
Default mode network, DMN.
Cool.
Yes.
That's so cool.
Yes.
I love that. And one of the things in business that I think is, like you said, we've been duped, is this idea that like logic and strategy are king. And that the other stuff, like I've had it called, and it drives me nuts when people say this, they call it the soft skills. Now, maybe I should just embrace that because I don't want to be hard either.
Totally.
So maybe I should just stop feeling that way. But like, tell me, I mean, we've been talking about this, right? Like the dream you had joining the mastermind, the how you met your husband. Honestly, quite frankly, how you even got started in business.
Oh, yeah.
You didn't come from
a business background. No,
at
I was
all.
a Spanish teacher.
You were a Spanish teacher, and then you were like writing technical manuals.
Yes.
For
a software company.
A software company. And then you made this big leap.
Totally.
To join a coaching something or other?
Yes, I joined like a coaching incubator mastermind 30-day like sprint thing to get it out. I'd been sitting on doing a business for 2 years while I was working that other job remotely in Bali. And I just had all the voices. Like, I'm too late. There are already people doing this. Who am I to just start talking on the internet like anyone should listen to me? I mean, so loud. And then it wasn't until I got myself accountable where other people could actually see these dreams and be like, did you do the thing or not? That I actually did it.
Well, see, okay, so that's where I think that sometimes in our industry where we're talking about like feminine energy in business and whatever, we can go too far into the like loosey-goosey softness of like, whoa, like I don't even have any edges.
Totally. I am an amoeba.
Very amoeba-like.
Very amoeba.
And then we don't actually get progress.
Totally. But then like the like super like boot camp, bro side doesn't feel good either.
It doesn't.
Yeah.
It doesn't. So when you work with people in the Millionaire Mother experience or in your higher level masterminds, or I don't actually even know if you do one-on-one mentoring anymore, but
very
anyway,
rarely.
With whoever you're working with.
Yes.
What are some of the insights that you can share about how to bring in both so that you're not amoeba-like, but you're also not like brittle robotic?
100%. I think that, I have always, not always been, but since I started business coaching in particular, which was 2017, I have loved the strategy and structure component. I think that my inner masculine is quite jacked and very strong, and I come from like an academic background, an athletic background, so the masculine
Capricorn energy,
Capricorn and Venus, baby. I've definitely got that side, but obviously also like deeply in my feminine. And to me, this is like the this is the epitome of mother energy. It's like the mature feminine, the one who's not like damsel in distress, the one who's not just like a gooey amoeba. I mean, when you said like soft skills, like instantly I just thought to like all of the moments where all of my kids were coming out of me. And it's like, tell me that a woman is soft.
Yeah.
No, thank you.
Yeah.
Like we are so fierce.
Yeah.
And that duality is, I really think, again, just we need both of those elements in business. And so particularly in MME and since starting the Millionaire Mother experience, all of our programs, we focus on 5 core areas: identity, energy, systems, marketing, and money. And for all 5 of those areas, there is like an inner universe. So like our own personal identity, death, and rebirth that comes with business. But then there's also our business structure, the infrastructure and architecture rebirth that happens. There's our inner game with energy and the outer energy of our brand. And so there's our home systems and then our back end business systems. And I am just such a stickler for both of these because we need to do the inner work. I mean, as you said, I've basically been taking business guidance from my guides for as long as I've been in business. But I'm like, you better believe I analyze our data and I'm in the back end and we have SOPs for everything, not just in business, but at home.
Yes.
And that's one of our, like our clients in MME love our program Homefront, which has like home staff job descriptions and like SOPs for how to like stack the dishwasher. I mean, it's a little over the top, but like it just saves
Oh my God,
so
Mike would
much
have to
time.
write the SOP on how to do the dishwasher.
Mike would love Homefront. He would love it. But it's like these things that take time that we just need to get out of our brain so we can have more space available to be with our kids or like channel the magic.
Yes. So you have a 5-month-old.
Yes.
Who came on this trip with you. He's so
Yes.
delicious. And a 2-year-old.
Yes.
And a
Almost
4-year-old.
Yeah.
Shy of 3 months. Many people, myself included,
think you're insane.
and you're like, oh, maybe we'll just have a fourth.
We are actively thinking about another.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to be pregnant in 30 seconds. Let's be honest. I know you. So, like, one of the things that I just want to say, and I've told you this before, is like so I really don't believe in hierarchy or any sort of fixed structure of this person is leading, this person is following. Like I really like relationships where that divine ping pong match goes back and forth.
Yes.
And one of the things that I have healed in me through witnessing you is like, obviously, you've had many, many hard moments and I do not want to gloss those over. And like, I'll never forget voxing with you when you were getting the mastitis a million times with Jack. And like, I mean, so let's not sugarcoat. However, there's a way in which you just kind of like are like expanding your capacity as you expand your family.
Yes.
That has, as I witness it, because in terms of the body, in terms of our nervous system and our psyche and our unconscious, this is all kind of the same thing, there is no sense of time. And so there's also no separation. Like the body does not believe the lie of separation. And so witnessing you in motherhood of young children in such expansive joy, sometimes more than I was, has actually, like, I feel like I've gone back in time and been able to like heal the part of me that was just massively firmly on the struggle bus for so many years in those early days. And I wasn't having but because you had a different experience, I feel like part of me also did. And as opposed to this thing that we do in women, I won't say we, sometimes it happens that like our conditioning will have us look at other women and be like, oh, must be nice for her.
Yes.
Or like, oh, she's having that. That's separate from me.
Yes.
And I just want to say, and I will, of course, follow up with a question, but I just want to say, like, it's been really beautiful to witness you and allow my past self to have that as well. because it's been healing to the part of me that was like, had such a hard time in early motherhood. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks
And
for doing it differently.
And thank you for that reflection. And I think it's so beautiful and helpful to anyone who has that like must be nice feeling to like see that there's another pathway available when you're seeing someone that's having a different experience to what you had.
Especially
it can be
something that you like, I'm not going to go back and have early motherhood again. Like it's
Totally.
not the sort of thing that I can be like, oh, let me get tips and apply them. Like that time has passed.
right.
But all time is now.
Yes.
And like, because I got to like soak in the vibes of you doing it, like I sort of sent it to my past self. I believe that we can do that.
Oh, totally.
Yeah. And so when it comes to money and witnessing other women make gobs of money and talk about it on the internet, I want to hear what's come up for you as you do that, especially as a mother.
Oh, yeah.
Because patriarchy wants us to believe that mothers are not supposed to be powerful financially.
Yes.
What's come up for you as you've done that? What's been some growth edge around that? And what have you witnessed with people getting triggered? Because I'm sure somebody listening to this already has been triggered by just the phrase, the millionaire mother.
When I rebranded my handle, the amount of unfollow was like so, because you have to remember.
Thank you for your share.
Thank you for your share. Goodbye. I am a manifestor in human design. We are blessed with a closed aura, meaning we can be intimidating, repellent. So I feel
My
like
mother
that,
is a manifestor.
interesting. Does that
Also, Penelope is.
so interesting?
Yeah, good to know.
So we have, that repelling.
integrating.
So yes, ding ding. And oh my gosh, Cait, I mean, some of the messages, because also I live on a farm.
Yeah.
We homestead.
Yeah.
So a
You
lot
have
of
goats.
that, we have goats, we have chickens, we had guinea fowl, Fox got them all, but we have a garden
geez.
and we are like close to the land people. So people
Super
see
Earth Mama.
People see the crunch and they're like, you're my people. And then it's like millionaire mother wearing like fancy jewelry and designer bags and driving a Mercedes. And they feel like personally offended. Like, I thought you were one of us. Yeah. I thought you were crunchy. And I'm like, I am crunchy.
And the forced duality of like, if you're connected to nature and the earth, somehow that means you've taken a vow of poverty.
Well,
What's that
is
about?
what is so interesting. And this is what I am so excited about in the event that I'm running, Maternal Wealth, because I am an English major, so in college, so just geek out on etymology, but the root of maternal and the root of material is the same, matter.
Right.
And in the Latin, that means mother. So the root of all material wealth, the root of all that is maternal, it's the core is the mother.
Yeah.
And the idea that we, in order to be close to the earth, we have to be separate from what is material in order to be like good mothers. We have to, take a vow of poverty and like denounce, overflow.
And also, which if you follow that line of reasoning, what's also underneath that is the assumption of self-sacrifice.
Oh, 100%.
And the imperative of self-sacrifice. Like I remember growing up, I got some messaging, and I think this is related, of like, I remember seeing women who looked put together, who were mothers, and assuming that because they looked good and were put together, that somehow they weren't a good mother.
Wow.
That, like, if they took the time to get dressed and do their hair and makeup, they must be so selfish that their children were suffering.
It's so, and that dichotomy runs so deep, so deep. And so and what I think that judgment or that perception or that false binary, what is so beautiful about that, and some of the messages I've received, like I have literally gotten the message, like, you are exactly what is wrong with society. Just like your children are like, because you're their mother, like so many, not often, but like in the beginning when we did the rebrand and we were running our live event last year, a lot of projection like that. And it is just so, in those moments, I'm like, it doesn't actually, it was intense to receive, but it was such a clear, oh, honey, like this is a really unhealed part. And what I think is so beautiful about, and why my company is called the Millionaire Mother, and why I'm like, yeah, I'm going to stand in that uncomfortable crossroads between these two worlds that we're told aren't supposed to mix, because I believe so deeply that stepping into the full availability to steward a paradigm of thriving is the single greatest inheritance that I can give to my kids.
Yeah.
To see a mother that isn't self-sacrificing and embodying because that is the archetype. In business, we have the archetypes of the man or the like girl boss maiden. And in motherhood, we have the martyr. And none of those archetypes serve our companies or our kids.
They really do not.
Yeah.
My friends who grew up with mothers who were martyrs, it leaves a mark.
It does.
And like I believe everything is healable. So it's not
100%.
like, but at the same time, like, you know, I think about my daughters and I do stuff, you know, I'm on planes, I'm working, I'm writing books, I'm going to get my nails done. I'm just doing stuff way more than my mother was in certain ways, even though my mom was for sure not self-sacrificing in particular ways, very committed to her career expression.
Yes.
I think about like what I would want for them in terms of the internalized permission to go for their dreams. And, you know, anytime I feel that kind of like, ooh, should I, shouldn't I? It's like, okay, cut to my daughters at the age of 30 or 35 or whatever. Like what do I want them to remember in their body?
Yes. I had this fascinating discussion with Lyric from Workplay Branding on my podcast.
She's been on the podcast, so you can go back and listen if you want.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So on my podcast, the Millionaire Mother podcast, I interviewed Lyric because she is 26 and, as we both know, co-founder of a 7-figure company that she started with her mom. So I interviewed her not because she is a mother, but because she is the daughter of a woman who unapologetically was ambitious and pursued a career. And she is like has this incredible relationship with her mom and planted the seed in Lyric, like dream big, work for your dreams, go after whatever you want. And she's in her mid-20s and like a millionaire.
Yeah.
And not from inherited money, but from a company that she started because she planted that seed. So I just think that was like such a beautiful case study and moment for the moms who feel guilt or, oh my gosh, if I'm going on a plane, I'm taking time away. Or if I'm working or doing a call or writing a book, I'm like not prioritizing motherhood and they're not developing healthy attachment. I mean, of course there are ways if we just completely ignore our kids, you know, truncate and don't explain to them what's happening, there can be some attachment stuff. But whenever I go away, I like get down with them. I talk to them. I tell them what I'm doing. And Ella will ask me, my 4-year-old, she's just starting to come into this. Like, what are you doing, mommy? Or like, she puts on my headphones and says, welcome to my podcast. I'm like, you are hilarious.
Yes.
But I'm like, mommy helps other mommies with their businesses. And she's like, that's so cool, mom. So she's so young, but she gets it. She knows I'm not just leaving because I don't care about them. She knows mommy is on a mission. And I'm so excited to do that work. And I'm so excited to come home.
Yeah.
And I mentioned that Lyric thing because we think that we're going to screw them up, but in fact, jury's out. Our kids are both still young, but I really believe we're planting an incredible seed of possibility for our kids to see that it's possible to do it all.
For sure. And also, you and I run sort of similar businesses. And I just got back from 6.5 weeks away for the summer, working quite frankly, a few hours a week and, you know, behind on several deliveries.
Yes.
But like, I was like, my kids are 6 and 8. Totally. The time is speeding up.
Oh my
gosh. And I'm just like, what am I doing if I'm like, the thing is, running our own businesses, stepping into the driver's seat in the way that you mentor women to do, allows us actually way more time to be with our kids than we would have if we were either A, running smaller businesses. Listen, by the way, there's like any size business is a wonderful business, but like, I just know that the income we make, because I've been willing to go bigger, allows me more space to spend more time with them than the opposite, which is this, it's not a delusion, but it's a conditioning to believe that the more money I make, the more time I have to spend.
Oh,
I've
yeah.
found it's the opposite. So can you
100%.
speak to that in your own business and in your own life and how that's worked for you? I'm assuming it's true for you. I actually know it's true for you as well. So,
100%. Well, this goes back to the whole like masculine, feminine, structure and flow side of things. When I have been so intentional about creating back-end systems, structures, workflows.
Do you still have that
and
program called
Baby Got Backend? Yes, that is
it makes me giggle. I love it.
Mike saw it yesterday. He's like, Baby Got Backend. Am I in the right place? That is indeed a business program. There is no X-rated content in that vault. But that is all the like SOPs.
That's actually exactly where Mike should be. He's like a systems man.
Totally. But so it was, I mean, you spoke to like, creating a bigger business allows us to actually step back and create more time. Before I could invest in team, it was like, I'm going to invest in systems so that I'm not expending my precious energy doing stuff that could just be like automated or delegated, deleted, optimized, what have you. So it's having that structure, that masculine side really dialed in, whether that is from a launching standpoint, whether that is like creating templates, whether it's having SOPs so you don't have to repeat processes, whether it's creating automations or finding the right tech stack or whatever. And then as the business grows and there's more money to reinvest, hiring team so that we are not the ones doing everything. And this in particular, if you're listening to this and you're a mom and you feel triggered by like, what? I don't have to do everything at home or in the business. And this is one that we have to be willing. And frankly, this is I spoke about identity being a core piece of my work. And the work I do with mothers, this is a really deep-seated one to unravel.
It really
because
is.
The feeling of I am a bad woman, I am a bad mother, I am somehow abandoning my mother and my great-grandmother who struggled and drove themselves into the ground because they insisted on doing everything. If I hire someone to do XYZ in my business or to wash my sheets or whatever it is, there is such deep programming, and I have really devoted myself to unraveling that, and like the line stops with me in my lineage of that, and being able to steward and carry a different frequency, not of this, like I'm above that kind of stuff, but when we make ourselves available to allow in more support, we are actually giving such a gift to our kids. We are giving ourselves and our companies such a gift in return. And even just from like an asset perspective, our time and our energy is the greatest asset that we have in business. And so if I am able to delegate out because of revenue that I have generated, people to do the tasks that move the needle, but that aren't things that I can do, it's such a wise allocation of assets in the business.
Yeah.
So,
and in your personal life, because
100%.
also like if we are a really like conscious, kind person, to me, creating more jobs is our job.
100%.
Like I love being a great place to work at our home, like our nanny is family.
Yeah.
I mean, like,
same.
It's like a deep connection.
So deep.
So, I mean, I think we've had past lives together. I mean, that's like a whole other thing, but just to create, and I've heard many stories, like horror stories of different families that people have worked with and terrible. And I'm like, okay, like I can create a great income for someone
and a dream
and
job.
wonderful place to work that's like delightful and safe and yummy. And like, yes, that is my job.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that happens because we are brave enough and we are willing enough to take the risks to bring the thing forward. And it's like, I think about the chain reaction and the cascade of events, your nanny's job, my nanny's job, our team's job, they wouldn't exist if we weren't willing to bring forward the thing inside of us. And so unhooking the story of who do I think I am? I can't, like that internalized tall poppy syndrome is so so strong, but it is not just our own inner work, but I really see it as like legacy inner work to do that.
Was your mother in more of a martyr archetype?
My mom is like my best friend. I love her so much. She is incredible. She wasn't a martyr in the like I'm miserable mothering or I'm miserable, but she stayed at home until I think I was 4 or 5, and then she got just like random odd jobs like substitute teaching and a paralegal and she never really had the martyr frequency, but she wasn't particularly motivated to have like a career be a main thing. As I got older, I think there were some martyr dynamics, less in like work and more in like her relationship. And I think that really like planted the seed of like, you can freaking have it all. You don't have to settle. That really planted that in me. But certainly the generation before her, both of my grandmothers had that.
Okay. Yeah. I was just like, I'm curious because usually when someone has this much of a fire for something, usually it is healing a lineage aspect.
I think
sometimes it's just comes in with us and that's where it's supposed to be. But I was just curious.
Definitely. It's definitely come through both the maternal and the paternal lines. And I think some of that fire of like, just how good are you willing to let it be? It definitely comes from her, but not so much from career, more like relationship.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Speaking of relationships, you have a wonderful husband. I love him. And I know that you also are the primary breadwinner in your family while also being the only person giving birth and nursing, obviously. Well, maybe not obviously, but in your family, that is true.
Yes.
So have there been any imprints that you've needed to unravel around men and women and money and husbands and wives and who should be making the money and any of that? Or was that something that was just like crystal clear from the beginning with you?
Okay, so here's two things I want to say about this. One has to do with Sarah Jenks's party and Venus and Mars signs. And the other—
That was a good one.
It was so good.
I'm excited to hear
the
more.
The other is a nerdy etymology thing again.
Great.
So provider, which we often think the man is supposed to be in a hetero relationship, the man is supposed to be the provider, and that defaults to financial providership. But provider, providere, is literally to be able to vision ahead or see forward. And what I think is so cool about this is that in a marriage where it's like equal parties looking in the same direction, contributing in not an equal way, because I think there are beautiful distinctions between the masculine and the feminine that we need to celebrate and see the complement that we provide to each other. But both are looking forward at that vision. And so Toby is so strongly the provider in our relationship in so many ways that are not financial. So back to the full moon dressed as your Venus and Mars sign. I did not know until that day, where a mutual friend had us, the women dress as their Venus sign and the men dress as their Mars sign. My Venus sign is Capricorn, shocker. And Toby's Mars sign is Cancer. And the description, I remember reading out the description of Mars in Cancer, and it's like, I am the good father, the land steward, the provider of like the creatures and the children. And I like burst into tears because that is so Toby. He like wakes up, puts on his work shirt. He's so sexy, but he just like, he holds all of the logistics of our life. He literally built our house. I mean, it was built in the 18th century, but he gutted and renovated the whole thing in 4.5 months because he was like on this like testosterone mission to like give me a house to give birth in for Jack. And we were on this insane timeline, and he renovated a 4,500 square foot house top to tail in 4 months. And so there are so many ways. He's a very involved dad. He like takes care of everything on the homestead, fixes everything, life logistics, tech, like he holds it down. And there are really, I mean, just so many ways that we've unraveled and looked at together this like idea that the man is supposed to be providing financially. I feel because my business, I think if I were working like a high powered corporate job, fueling someone else's dreams, I would feel so differently because my business gives me energy because
Yeah.
I am in the active expression of like channeling life force through me in complete alignment with my soul's expression and mission. And because of that, like, sure, work takes time, but it gives me energy. And it is a very efficient use of like both of our time. If I tried to channel my life force to like do life admin in the house, it would be extremely draining. But that is a zone of genius for Toby. So we really are like, let's stock take the skills that we jointly have and like plug in the way that makes the most sense. So there is no, I think for anyone, and I've worked with some clients around this who feel the fear of like emasculating their husband by, being the primary breadwinner. I think it's just about having an honest conversation. Like Toby has his own business that makes multiple six figures, and that's great. But he doesn't feel threatened at all by me doing what I do because it's like we're on team family.
Yes.
And that stewardship, greater mission, providere, like looking ahead at what we're building, that we're both on that mission together.
Well, I think any amount of like competition in a marriage will degrade the foundation. And even that idea of like tallying who's making more, or what, like my
It's
friend Susie Moore, she did a great article in Business Insider about like here's what people don't understand about making more money than your husband. Was a great
love
piece.
that.
And then Heath did a follow-up. Here's what people don't understand about when your wife makes more than you. And her take was basically like any dollar that comes into our household is a win.
Totally.
Like, let's look at
100.
together as opposed to like
Tit for tat.
and that's been something I've needed to work on healing in myself, which is why I asked the question. And I've come so far.
I can literally tell you the last time that we stopped doing tit for tat, it was 2019. We were moving to the States. And up until then, so we got married in 2017. 2019, we were moving from Bali back to the States. And it was the first plane ticket. I bought the plane tickets and we were like, we had a tally up until that point, and he like owed me $8,000. And then my business really just started to take off. And it was like, hang on, this literally makes no sense. And then especially with having kids, it's like we are on team family, team bigger vision here. And it just feels so much better. And it's this pouring in rather than taking out. And it's like the sum is greater than the total is greater than the sum of the parts.
Yeah. And I think, there's a few threads that I just want to kind of wrap up here as we close, and they all speak to the dissolution of the lie of scarcity and the dissolution of the zero sum. One of them is that you were talking about how, devoting time to a business that you love is additive as opposed to subtractive for your children.
Yes.
Right? Because it enhances their well-being as opposed to the old conditioning that any amount the mother is not 100% focused on her children, that somehow she is doing harm. Like, that's such bullshit.
Well, and our kids are so perceptive. Like they can feel, I mean, the other day we got Toby installed this like zip line thing in our yard, and I was so fun. I was like sending her down the zip line and I stumbled on a tree root and I fell over, and she like, I was totally fine, but she burst into tears because she was like, mommy's not okay. I am not. So I mean, I just think about that moment, but when our kids feel, and we can mask, we can put on a smile, we can put on a brave face, but our kids know when we are unhappy, unfulfilled, resentful, if there's like a riff that's unspoken. I mean, our nervous systems absorb that, and we have to do the work in adulthood of like decalcifying that and healing that. So to your point of it being additive, when our children see us as the mother, like we are the energetic thermostat. When our kids see us fulfilled, happy, lit up, it's such a gift.
It's such a gift. So that's one. And then this second piece around like relationship and however much money is earned from whichever, whoever, whatever. And like this comes up with my clients when they actually, this is not like a primary thing, but it's coming from time to time where someone has inherited money, or they are a woman who there is money coming in from another source where she didn't quote unquote earn it. There's also a habitual separation and disconnection from it in terms of like, that's not mine, which is such a waste of good money.
Oh my
It's like,
gosh.
that's not helping anybody. So either way, if we put up a line and a separation of like, whose is what's, what did I earn, how much, like it's just separating us from the abundance that's available.
100%. And I just come back to that doesn't help anyone. It
doesn't help anybody.
pretending,
Exactly.
feeling like contracted, shame, guilt, that's not helping anyone. And I think that that's where looking at this, like taking a few steps back, like softening our gaze and looking at this more from like a divine and cosmic standpoint. If we have, for whatever reason, through inheritance, through a settlement, through whatever it is, this money to steward in this lifetime. I mean, that word stewardship is so essential to me because it's like, does it really matter how it came in? I mean, sure, there's like dodgy ways that one can, you know, make money. And I'm not suggesting that we do that in the name of stewardship. But if we come into money, whatever that means, and I also have worked with some clients who've struggled with that feeling of like feeling like it's theirs or feeling okay to like sink into that. When we steward from that energy of like creating a better world and creating more abundance through the abundance that we have, that is the gift. And contracting, pretending like we don't, hiding it, feeling guilty around it, that is not stewardship.
No, it's really not. And I feel called to bring up something that my friend and former coach Raw Goddess said to me one time in a conversation we were having. It was like a public conversation of some kind. I can't remember what it was, but she was just like, yeah, so privilege guilt is over. Like that's not the game we're playing because as you said, it's not helping anyone. And it's back to the tallying and as opposed to like, okay, let's get all the things in the pot. Let's work with what we've got. Let's be aware in that, whatever that part of the brain is. What was it again?
Default mode network.
The default mode network. Like now that that's expanded, we can be far more aware of other people and their needs and the needs of the collective and the energetic tone of the family, the human family, all of that. So beautiful.
Yes.
Okay. So I want people to know where they can come to find you. And then we also have a special link that they can go to find out about your masterclass. So first tell people where to come find you and then we'll send them
100%. This is so great. Could do this all day. So I have a podcast, the Millionaire Mother podcast, wherever podcasts are found. Apple and Spotify are great. I'm on Instagram, so definitely come say hi on Instagram.
Yeah, your Instagram is great.
The Millionaire Mother. And my website is forthcoming. That will be themillionairemother.com, but you can get your name on the list if you want to be on there. I've got a fun newsletter called the Millionaire Mother Diaries where I share the bloopers and behind the scenes and forming thoughts and scribbles from my notes app.
I love that.
So that's also really fun. But yeah, the podcast, Instagram, and the diaries are great.
Amazing. And you have this masterclass coming up called Maternal Wealth.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about that, and then I'll tell people where to go find it.
Okay, great. So Maternal Wealth is a 2-hour, it's one day, but it's a 2-hour immersion, which in some ways might seem like a lot as a mama, but I'm just like, book the babysitter, put on the movie, buy a new coloring book and some crayons, like do what you got to do, come for these 2 hours. So it is a somatic and strategic business workshop. So I am guiding people through a process, which is a somatic exercise, and then we're unpacking strategy. And it really goes back to that root of mater and looking at what does it look like when we create from our maternal biological selves, that advantage, that part of our brain, that part of our body, that part of our being. How do we approach wealth building differently? How do we approach expression differently? And what I'm most excited about in this workshop is that people are going to feel it in their bodies. This is not just another like scribble all the notes and remember the key things. There will be some of that. But this is about giving you a taste of this in your body. So you're like, oh, that's what she means.
Yeah.
And you have it to walk away with. So I am so excited. We've had over 10,000 mothers join us in the last couple events that we've run. And this one I feel like is going to be just out of the park. So I'm really pumped.
Amazing. Amazing. So folks can go to caitnorthrup.com/maternal in order to sign up for that. You're speaking my language with like, get it in the body and then you will remember it forever.
Yes.
And I'm curious, one more thing I want to ask you about, like there's matter, like all things physical and mother, right? Same word, root word matter.
Yeah.
But like also what matters.
Yes.
Right? And
Also
so that
what
to me
matters.
feels like this crucial element of like, this is what really matters. Do you know, is that the same?
It is.
Root word?
It
Same.
is. Totally. And it all comes back to like something that we can hold on to.
Something
When
that we
you
can
think
hold
about, oh my
on
gosh,
to.
it's going to make me cry. Think about my little baby's hands.
Oh my
like,
God.
what can we hold on to? It's like, it is the matter. It is the mother, and it is what matters. So it is all the root.
I love you.
I love you
Thanks
so much.
for being
Thank
here.
you.
This is so great.
Tearjerker at the end. So good.
Yay. Thanks for listening to this episode of Plenty. If you enjoyed it, make sure you subscribe, leave a rating, leave a review. That's one of the best ways that you can ensure to spread the abundance of plenty with others. You can even text it to a friend and tell them to listen in. And if you want even more support to expand your abundance, head over to caitnorthrup.com/breakthroughs, where you can grab my free money breakthrough guide that details the biggest money breakthroughs from some of the top earning women I know, plus a mini lesson accompanying it with my own biggest money breakthroughs and a nervous system healing tool for you to expand your abundance. Again, that's over at caitnorthrup.com/breakthroughs. See you next time.